interpretation of why this is a bearish reversal pattern is that since it appears when price is going up, the long upper tail implies that buyers were once dominating the candlestick, but sellers were strong enough to bring price down and make the candlestick close with a small bearish body in the lower range. All of that implies more selling pressure than buying pressure. And when that happens while price is rising, we have a signal that the trend might reverse to the downside. The way a shooting star works is that price will be going up, and then after the shooting star appears, it will start to go down. Let's remember once again that this is just a signal. There's absolutely nothing that stops price from continuing going up after a shooting star pattern, just like with any other pattern. The next pattern we are going to study is the hanging man, which is a simple bearish reversal pattern. The hanging man has a very similar shape to the hammer, but the main two differences is that the hanging man appears when price is going up and it has a bearish body. The hanging man is also the shooting star pattern upside down, just like the inverted hammer is the hammer pattern upside down. The hanging man has a small bearish body that sits on the upper range of the candlestick and a long lower tail. The hanging man still implies more selling pressure because sellers are able to make the candlestick close with a small bearish body. However, notice that even though sellers win the final battle, they don't do that by a large margin, since the hanging man has a long lower tail that implies buying pressure too. The best way of looking at this is that the hanging man represents that sellers have slightly more power than buyers, unlike in a shooting star, for example, where the selling pressure is much larger than the buying pressure. The way a hanging man will appear on the chart is that price will be going up, and then a hanging man will appear to signal a reversal to the downside. The hanging man closes the list of simple reversal patterns. So let's review a few things about how the four of them correlate with each other. There are many details that connect these four patterns in different ways. The first thing we can notice right from the start is that their shapes are very similar. What varies regarding their shapes is the position of the candle body in relation to the candle range, which consequently affects the size of the upper and lower tails. The other detail that is less self-evident in here is that the context in which these patterns occur dramatically change their interpretations, even though they have similar shapes. For instance, the hammer is very similar to the hanging man. The only difference is that one has a bullish body and the other has a bearish body. However, the fact that the hammer appears in a down move means it will signal a possible reversal to the upside, while the hanging man appearing in an upper move means a possible reversal to the downside. Notice that the quality of the candle body dramatically changes the logical interpretation of the candlestick pattern. One good way of thinking about these patterns is that the candle body tells you who won the battle in that candlestick, and the tail tells you the places where that battle took place. And based on that, we can infer buying power or selling power. Let's move on now to the complex reversal patterns, where we have two or more candlesticks forming a pattern that will indicate a reversal in the current direction of price. We'll start with the complex patterns that have two candles, and then we'll move on to the more complex patterns later. The first complex reversal pattern we are going to study is the bullish engulfing pattern. The bullish engulfing pattern is formed by two candles, where the first candle is a small bearish candle, and the second is a medium to large bullish candle that completely engulfs the range of the first candle. The main characteristic of this pattern is precisely the fact that the second candle completely covers or engulfs the range of the previous candle. The logical interpretation of this pattern is that buyers are powerful enough to create a candle that covers the entire range of a previous bearish candle. Notice that sometimes the second candle will open with a small gap down, denoting selling power, but even with that, buyers will have enough strength to reverse that condition and create a bullish candle large enough to engulf the action of the previous candle. That is an explicit display of buying pressure, so it's a strong indication about the force of buyers and the weakness of sellers. A bullish engulfing pattern appears when price is going down, and then a bullish candle large enough to engulf the previous bearish candle appears, therefore signaling a reversal to the upside. Notice that this pattern necessarily needs two candles because the whole pattern is based on the fact that the second candle engulfs the first one. The next complex reversal pattern is the bearish engulfing. which is precisely the opposite of the bullish engulfing. The logical interpretation of the two patterns is exactly the same, but the bearish engulfing denotes a reversal to the downside. The first candle will be relatively small and bullish, and the second candle will be a medium-sized or large bearish candle to the degree that it completely engulfs the first candle. In other words, in a bearish engulfing pattern, the sellers will explicitly display dominance over buyers. The bearish engulfing pattern will appear when price is going up, and then a large bearish candle will form to completely engulf a previous small bullish candle, therefore signaling a reversal to the downside. It should be clear to you that the second candle is a very clear indication of dominance. It's useful to associate opposing patterns together. In the case of the bullish engulfing and the bearish engulfing, that's not a problem because the names of the patterns clearly indicate what they mean. However, that's not always the case, as we'll see in the next two patterns. The next complex reversal pattern we are going to study is called the piercing line, which is a bullish reversal pattern formed by two candles. This is a subtler pattern than the engulfing patterns we just studied because it involves the perception of a gap between the close of the first candle and the open of the second candle. In a piercing line, the first candle is a bearish candle, and the second candle is a bullish candle that opens with a gap down. We have to be careful here because a gap down denotes selling power. However, the buying power in the second candle overcomes the selling power that creates the gap down. Beyond that, and this is why the pattern receives its name, the second candle is able to pierce the line created by the closing of the first candle, hence the name piercing line. This is a bullish reversal pattern because buyers are able to fill the gap between the two candles, and they are also capable of piercing the line created by the closing value of the first candle. The reason we care about this line created by the closing value of the first candle is because it represents the price where sellers won the battle in the first candle, so it's an important level. When buyers are able to close the gap and pierce or violate that line, we have an indication that buying power is greater than selling power. The piercing line appears when price is going down in order to signal a reversal to the upside. The next pattern is the precise opposite of the piercing line, and it's called the dark cloud. In other words, a complex bearish reversal pattern composed by two candles. The second candle opens with a gap up, implying some buying power, but the second candle closes with a significant bearish quality that not only closes the gap created by buyers, but also pierces the line created by the closing value of the first candle. Even though the name dark cloud has nothing to do with piercing line, the two patterns are mirror images of each other. The name dark cloud comes from the analogy that the second bearish candle covers the first candle in part, just like a dark cloud sometimes covers the sun. It's an analogy that makes it easier to remember the pattern. The dark cloud will appear when price is going up to signal a reversal to the downside. The next two complex reversal patterns we are going to study are similar to the piercing line and the dark cloud, but they are slightly weaker signals in a way. The first pattern is called bullish meeting line, which is similar to the piercing line since it's a bullish reversal pattern, but it's a weaker signal. The bullish meeting line also displays a gap down between the first and second candles, but unlike the piercing line, in the bullish meeting line there is no violation of the line that represents the closing value of the first candle. The logical interpretation here is that buyers are strong enough to fill the gap created by sellers, but they are not strong enough to violate or pierce the closing line of the first candle. In other words, the closing line of the second candle meets the closing line of the first candle, hence the name of this pattern. The bullish meeting line appears when price is going down in order to signal a reversal to the upside. We also have the bearish meeting line, which is the mirror image of the bullish meeting line. The bearish meeting line is the slightly weaker version of the dark cloud because, even though sellers are able to fill the gap created by buyers, they are not strong enough to pierce or violate the closing line of the first candle. Nonetheless, the bearish meeting line still represents a bearish reversal pattern. The bearish meeting line appears when price is going up in order to signal a reversal to the downside. Next, we are going to study 4 different patterns that have one theme.